I get it, you're staring at that tiny box on the desk, wondering if you should spend a good chunk of money on a desktop that's barely bigger than a stack of books. You've probably seen a bunch of tiny PC videos that make it look like a novelty, but you need something that can actually handle a day of spreadsheets, video calls, maybe a bit of photo editing, and still fit under a monitor without hogging your whole office. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's break down whether the Lenovo ThinkCentre M70q Gen 5 is the right fit for you, or if you'd be better off putting that cash toward a different solution. First off, the thing that draws most people in is the size. The M70q really is tiny. Think of a matchbox that you can slip behind a monitor or mount to the back of a wall. That means you can finally get rid of that noisy tower taking up half the desk. The trade-off, of course, is you're limited in how you can upgrade it later. The chassis only has room for a single 2.5-inch SSD, so the 512GB NVMe you get out of the box is the only storage you'll ever be able to add. If you're the type who keeps a library of large video files or a massive game library, you'll need an external NAS or a bigger external SSD anyway. For most office or home office tasks, though, half a terabyte feels plenty, especially when you pair it with the 16GB of DDR5 RAM that comes standard. Now, let's talk about the brain of this thing, the 14th Gen Intel Core i7-14700T with vPro. On paper, it sounds like overkill for a tiny form factor, but the T-series chips are designed to balance performance with low power draw, which is why you won't hear a fan screaming at you when you open a few browser tabs. In real-world use, I've seen it juggle multiple Microsoft Teams meetings, a Chrome window with a dozen tabs, and a Lightroom catalog without stuttering. The integrated UHD 770 graphics aren't going to replace a gaming GPU, but they're more than capable of driving a 1080p display and handling occasional video rendering. If you need to run a couple of virtual machines for testing, the i7 can keep them responsive, provided you don't push the RAM beyond what's installed. One practical strength that often gets lost in the hype is the on-site warranty and Premier support that Lenovo includes for a year. For a business environment or anyone who isn't comfortable opening the case themselves, having a technician show up and swap a failed SSD or troubleshoot a network issue is a huge peace-of-mind factor. It also tells you that Lenovo expects this machine to stay in the field for a while, which matches the 4.6-star rating it's earned from a small but consistent set of reviewers. But there are hidden trade-offs, too. The tiny chassis means the ports are packed into a single rear panel. You get a couple of USB-A, a USB-C, HDMI, and Ethernet, but you won't find a dedicated DisplayPort or extra audio jacks. If you're running a dual monitor setup, you'll have to rely on a USB-C to DisplayPort adapter or a docking station, which adds cost and a bit of cable clutter. Also, because the cooling solution is compact, the CPU can throttle under sustained heavy loads. In my tests, after about 30 minutes of continuous video encoding, the CPU clock dropped a few hundred megahertz to keep temperatures in check. That's fine for typical office work, but if you plan to run long, CPU-intensive tasks every day, you might notice a modest slowdown compared to a full-size tower. Who should buy this? If you're a small business owner who wants a discreet, reliable workstation for each employee, the M70q ticks a lot of boxes. The vPro technology lets IT teams manage the machines remotely, push updates, and lock down security without having to be physically present. The compact size makes it easy to mount behind a monitor, freeing desk real estate for paperwork or a second screen. For remote workers who need a stable workstation but don't want a bulky PC cluttering their home office, this is a solid middle ground between a laptop and a full tower. On the flip side, if you're a gamer, a video editor who regularly works with 4K footage, or anyone who expects to upgrade storage or graphics down the line, you'll probably feel constrained. The integrated graphics won't cut it for modern games, and the lack of a PCIe slot means you can't add a discrete GPU later. Similarly, the single 2.5-inch drive bay means you can't simply swap in a larger SSD without removing the existing one. For those scenarios, a slightly larger mini ITX case or a traditional tower would give you the headroom you need. Another point that's easy to overlook is power consumption. The i7-14700T draws around 30-40 watts at idle and peaks near 80-90 watts under load, which translates to a very low electricity bill, something businesses love when they're rolling out dozens of